Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Lauren Schieffer, Coach MJ Tolan, and Ian Hendry. Here's my question. How do you get over the fear of being a beginner while still disliking it enough not to stay there? Coach, can you kick us off?
Well, first of all, I would say that anytime you're entering into a place which is out of your comfort zone, you're going to instinctively push back or pull back. Particularly in answering this question, I've got a lot of pushback and pullback because I'm not really sure I understood it correctly, and it seems really ambiguous to me. So here's what I'm going to start out with. I'm going to say that when we throw ourselves into something because we know we can do it, that's kind of our positive spirit, even though we've never been there before. We never wore masks before. So we had all this reservation and pushback about it. Did we like it? Maybe not so much. Couldn't wait to rip them off at the end. Absolutely. So we all had this kind of learning curve and hate and love relationship, protect ourselves, protect others. We understood the benefit, but boy, getting started and getting used to that thing took a lot from us. And I think we all had to learn our own cycle of tolerance, and tolerance is really what it takes. So that's my 2 cents.
I am the Colonel's daughter. So much of what I know and think came from my father, the Colonel. And the Colonel used to say, there is absolutely no shame in not knowing, kid. The shame is in not being willing to find out. And so in every situation that we start something new, just like Coach said, we start not knowing. But we have to be in a consistent phase of learning, always. If we're not learning, we're dying. So my husband makes jokes that I live in a perpetual state of imposter syndrome because I am always trying to learn more. And I focus on what I don't know rather than what I do know. But it all comes back down to the Colonel's quote. There's no shame in not knowing. The shame is in not being willing to find out.
Yeah, there's a few things, and Lauren's talking about a lot of it. It's when you're not certain to build that confidence up is educating yourself around that topic or deeply into it. And I know because I was deeply afraid of swimming in the ocean because of this whole shark thing. And so I spent a lot of time watching shark documentaries to educate myself, and it did remove it, like it minimized it to a great extent. So I mean, doing that helped me. I know that for a fact. But I do think back as kids, we aren't afraid to go into things that we don't know anything about. Whereas now we're adults, and almost everything we don't know, we kind of step backwards instead of stepping forwards, right? Like it's very different in how we're doing it, even though we were less educated then and we're more educated now, per se.
I think part of it for me is the fear of judgment. And I ask clients this when they're afraid of public speaking, who are you allowing to judge you and why? And I know for me, when I was younger, I never learned to play golf because you can't learn to play golf in private. I didn't want to have to go out and be a beginner in public where people would see me. And I went out once to a driving range, and the guy that I was with made fun of me because I'd never used a golf club. I had no idea how to hit a golf ball. And I was using his clubs. He was 4 inches taller than me. And I was horrible. And he made fun of me. And because of that, I never learned to golf. Same thing goes for bowling. I have a story about bowling. Can't learn to bowl in private. So I think for me, part of that fear of being a beginner is being made fun of that judgment.
Well, he loses the right to ever be with you again in any venue.
Yeah. That's a great way to putt it.
I think a lot of it also comes down, for me, I can't make judgments for anyone else, to comparison-itis. You know, we are always comparing ourselves with people who know more than we do, who are better at something than we are. And every time we compare ourselves with someone else, we automatically compare our weaknesses to their strengths. And you lose that comparison every time. I don't know why we would do that to ourselves. I mean, it's human nature. We all do it. But it's counterproductive.
Comparing up. It's a psychological condition. We always compare up. We never compare across or down. Unless we're trying to make ourselves look good, then we'll compare down to other people who are, psychologically dumber or whatever. Like we'll make stuff up about other people and compare down. But when it comes to our own selves, we compare up and then feel bad about it. So I wanted to ask the question, you've gotten over your fear of being a beginner. You're out there, you're doing it. How do you decide, okay, I'm going to get good at this, even though right now I'm lousy at it, rather than just saying, I'm going to be a beginner forever, who cares?
It's all part of doing it more, right? Spending more time around that and continuing it. It's like mastery. If you don't do it every day or at least once a week kind of sort of thing, you'll never get there. You have to keep that momentum moving and build on your, I guess, foundation per se, right? Because otherwise, yeah, you lose things. It's like riding a bike. You can be great when you're a kid, and when you get older, if you haven't ridden for 30 years, you can do it, but you're nowhere near as good. Those muscles are super weak.
I think that what you just said is not really possible. What you said was, I'm just going to keep being a beginner forever. Well, if you keep doing it, then you can't keep being a beginner forever, because you naturally get better at it the more you do it. And
well, so
I just
here's an
contradicted
example.
myself.
I'll give you an example as to why I think that's not true. I think there's a certain pressure to be mediocre, because as long as you're mediocre, you don't ever really try to get a little bit better, and you can't fail. So you don't get that pressure of failure. So you can stay mediocre or a beginner by just not trying a little extra.
And that's based around personal drive, right? If you don't have the drive to do better, be better, grow, I mean, you're going to be the same person you were whenever that stopping point is for you, right? You have to do something about it to get better, obviously.
I hear what you're saying, and I respect what you're saying. I don't understand it. It's not in my nature. My husband and I had a argument very early on in our marriage when he had come to see me speak. And I had made the mistake of saying, so how was it, honey? What did you think? And he said, oh, it was fine. And I said, fine? What is fine? Fine is average. Fine is adequate. I'd rather be dead than adequate. I mean, it actually blew up into stupidly blew up into a big fight. I don't understand adequate. I don't understand average at all, which is a double-edged sword, I'm sure. But I can see that there might be a mindset where this works. I'm comfortable with it. I don't choose to improve. I don't get that, but I know it exists.
My mind went in two tracks. The first one was, when we start our adolescence, and then we get into something that humans call romance. So we don't have any experience there, do we? So we start out on a path where we have no experience. We want to get better at it, but we're not really sure how to do it. So we all trip up and we all make our own mistakes. And that's why they have divorce attorneys that are so successful in America today. On the other hand, I have a brother who was really terrible at golf, since you mentioned golf before, but he had a big reason why. The big reason why was all of the other members of the board played golf fanatically. And so he was compelled to get private lessons so that he could stand in front of his peers and at least assault the ball with some decent level of self-respect so that we go past the lady's tee. And for that reason, I believe that we really have to throw in the ingredient, where is Simon Sinek, Tony Robbins, Basic 101, where is your why? So if your why is big enough, you'll find a way. And, Colonel's daughter said it best, there's no room for mediocrity. There's no room about half doing it. You either go for it or you don't. And, to want to pull down the bridge on the road to excellence is ridiculous. We want to be excellent. We want to excel. We want to be good at everything that we try to do. When we put our head into it, we're going to get it. But we need to have a big enough why.
I mean, everything I agree with in a lot of aspects. The only thing I would say is we'd have to want that certain thing. Not everything we can want and have to want to do to drive more, to be better. I mean, I don't want to be a really good crocheter, right? I'm fine the way I am by stabbing myself every time with the crochet needle. So, I mean, there's just certain things that we're going to have to accept as being adequate at because we don't care as much about them. Is really all I can say.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I think managing that discontentment between excellence and perfection is something that those of us who are achievers really have to deal with. But I think that's a topic for a different conversation. So thanks so much for having this conversation with me. That is our 10 minutes. And I look forward to speaking to each of you again very soon.